some guy looks out his window at like whatever financial building, because these have all been done against financial institutions. Some guy looks out his window and there's just a drone hovering outside of his window, and like, yeah, they got caught. And
Wow. That's not subtle.
Yeah, like it's just been the complete lack of subtlety. And the one that I used in my case study in my talk was, I think it was Eastern Financial. And they, like their network team, like they got into the server and everything, but their network team's like, there's a rogue access point here. Like they did signal tracing and they went up on the roof and there's like a Matrix 600 with like a Wi-Fi pineapple, laptop on it, battery packs.
Just like parked up on the roof, someone just dropped it in there?
Yeah, they landed on top of the HVAC, which like that'd be a good place to hide it if it was disguised as something that's supposed to be there and not like a Matrix 600, which is a huge drone. Yeah. Like it's like a $10,000 drone too. Like, and it's not subtle. There's nothing subtle about this. And they just go upstairs, like they go up on the roof of their building, and there's like, well, that's not supposed to be there, obviously. And those guys got caught. But like a big thing that they're talking about is like the cartels actually pioneered a lot of like what we're seeing with the drone stuff. It's like, like everyone attributes ISIS over in Syria. They're the first group to use a weaponized drone. Actually, it was the Nolas and the Zetas 2 years prior to ISIS. And a lot of the stuff in Ukraine that was attributed to like, oh, the Ukrainians came up with this first. Actually, no, it was the Mexican drug cartels. And
You're
like,
kidding me? That I did not know.
It's like one of the things. It's like this should be bigger news here in the States because I can walk to Mexico. Like I'm in West Virginia right now, but I can theoretically walk to Mexico. It's going to take me a long time, but I could do it. But I have my slides up from the thing. I'm going to throw on YouTube later.
U.S. Border Patrol reported that the Mexican cartel flies their drones over the border to harass and then bother the Border Patrol.
I'm thinking about this. It's like I'm reading this now. Like the Mexican cartels, there's like been 60,000 reported drone flights near the border in just like Q2 of 2024 and like the Q1 of last year, 2025. And it's like, this is just the ones that are detected, but it's like averages, like it comes out to like 330 like airspace incursions a day from Mexican cartels across the border.
Oh, that.
There was an incident back in December. I cannot remember where it was. Was it up your all's way there, Adam?
I don't remember where it was, but it was hilarious.
They flew in lobster, menthol cigarettes,
into a prison.
Some type of candy. It's like, yeah, it's a carton of menthols, lobster, like a lobster dinner, corn on the cob, and like a bunch of just other random stuff like money and drugs. But like,
you sure this wasn't Goodfellas? Because like, you know,
it was Goodfellas
when they're having the dinner and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in a sense, it was.
Yeah.
So a lot of these prisons, like they'll post the pictures, like the contraband they collect, like a lot of police agencies do, like when they have a big drug bust. But you have like lobster tails, menthol cigarettes, like snack cakes, and like money and drugs.
In December 2025, a drone attempted to deliver a surf and turf holiday meal, including raw steaks, crab legs, and Old Bay seasoning to inmates at the Lee Correctional Institution. And then there's other kids. They made the drone. They made a drone submersible. That was really cool too.
I saw that, and like everyone's like, it was just like, oh, I was told only DARPA was working on like drones that could go underwater. And then you've got like, I'm pretty sure the guy was a teenager too.
Yeah. Like, he was a high school kid.
Yeah, he's like 16, 17. And like he's in his pool in his backyard, and like this drone's like underwater doing underwater drone stuff, and it comes up to the top and it takes off and flies. It was so cool. And,
I'd love an underwater drone because I'll just tell you, me growing up in Jersey, going down the shore and everything, being by the water, there's lots of really interesting stuff down there. Especially in Jersey, you got guns, bones, and God knows what else.
The kid's 16 years old, and he got recruited by some, like, we'll put you through school.
His college is paid for. I hope that guy's college is paid for.
Well, but it might be paid for, but he might be working for like a 3-letter agency or the military at this point.
I mean, the benefits are pretty good. I mean, if I was his age and wasn't stupid and a teenager, like, yeah, that'd be great. And it's like I got pension.
And the irony is, the biggest thing that they're talking about now with these UAO, or AKA UFOs, is a lot of these UFOs that are flying in the sky, they're also going submersible.
I've lost drones to birds before
Oh, I'll bet, yeah.
because they can see a drone flying in their territory from a mile away. Like, we have a hard time tracking anything moving 50 feet in front of us, and that's before you throw in cell phones, cars, background noise, whatever's on someone's mind through workday. Or is a person going to be able to see a 12-inch object moving at 60 kilometers an hour, 500 feet up, carrying a Wi-Fi pineapple? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be lucky if they hear it, because after you get like above 150 feet, you can't really hear them that well unless it is perfectly quiet. This is like, and birds aren't subject to cognitive bias. Like, it's like, oh, no one's going to use a drone. I had like one guy argue with me once that, oh, drones, like, no one's doing this with drones. It's going to be a guy with a laptop sitting out in the parking lot with his car. Well, if you have security guards who are worth anything, they're going to notice, hey, that car has been parked out there for a while, and that guy's been sitting in it all day, and we don't know who he is. Or this guy's been walking down the street back and forth in front of this building, and he has antennas hanging out of his backpack. We don't know who he is. That's going to be quickly noticeable. How many people are going up and checking the roof to see if there's like a Matrix 600 parked on top of the HVAC unit, which was completely unnecessary? They could have had like a smaller one, disguised it as a weather station and planted on the roof, and like it looks like a piece of the infrastructure. Spray, like, rattle can it to where like it blends in with the roof. Like, you can go on Google Earth and see what the roof looks like.
I'll tell you this. I have seen people using cameras on their roof using AI to detect objects. So whether it's
Good.
what?
Good.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind AI is to know direction of flight. It's to know crowd gathering. It's to know so direction of flight is used in airports. If you're going out the in, that's how they detect people that should be exiting the controlled area to the non-controlled area from a flight, from a gate into the general population. Crowd, whether or not something's there. Idling, whether something's been there for a long period of time, if it exceeded a certain amount of time. So there are buildings in New York City especially that do have AI enabled cameras on the roof looking for these type of things. I'm sure they're not as populated as they should be, but the reason why I can say that is I've been involved in some of those things at some point in my life.
Oh, it's like where I'm at, like, one of the nicknames for the area that I'm in is the Chemical Valley, because there's all these chemical factories down the Ohio Valley, like the Canal River Valley, going out to the Ohio River through Charleston and Huntington. And like, one of the case points I made is like, there's this one chemical facility, I think it's Dow or DuPont. And it's like, they have amazing physical security at ground level. They have vehicle checks coming in, check ID. If you're not supposed to be there, they're not letting you through the gate. They're going to turn you around, send you back if they don't detain you, and call the cops on you. But there's all these chemical derricks on their own private property on this island out in the river, because it's not a small river. And it's like, I know those factories have been there for decades. My grandfather used to work at one back in the 60s. Like, those facilities are old. Do they have the security cameras facing inward on top of those chemical derricks? Like, you land a drone with a solar panel on it, like one of the Russians had done, with like signal equipment on it. Are they going to notice that there's something up there that's not supposed to be there, like it flies in at night or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something big I'm getting from this discussion, and actually getting from your talk also, that I saw. It's funny when you talk about, the cars and we notice things, whatever. We do live in a three-dimensional world, but we largely exist on the ground.
Yeah,
and
and
see
like,
things on the ground. And now with drones, things have become much more three-dimensional.
it's like,
You
yeah,
got to worry about the sky now.
security exists in 3 dimensions. I make fun of Midwesterners all the time, but they don't have a Z-axis. like again, I come from the mountain state. It's just like you can be driving down the road and like 500 feet to your left is like a sudden 1,500-foot incline. Is you kind of can become aware of that elevation. Elevation's a big deal. And was there something above me watching me? If you're not used to looking up, then you're not going to think about it.
Okay, so I've been curious. So, okay, you're building an aircraft, and even if it's a small one, and I've always thought, maybe my thinking is out of date, that if you're building an aircraft, you got to know something about aeronautical engineering and all that sort of stuff. Do you, or is it just like these controllers just expect to have something with 4 propellers and that's it?
Quadcopters are easier than fixed wing because you're not dealing with the aerodynamics like a quadcopter. Like I saw a Russian quadcopter that was literally a tree log, like a hollowed out tree log packed with kinetic stuff, with like 4 propellers like jammed through it.
Yeah.
Like
I think I've seen that in Ukraine too. Don't they like build them in the field and they use a piece of plywood or whatever they got around?
Or PVC pipe, garbage, sheet metal. Like that's not very aerodynamic at all.
Okay.
Let me add, Joe. You can go online and literally get the code to print out pretty much the whole entire drone, like a quadcopter. It says use this to print all the pieces, and then go online and order those parts, and you're making a drone yourself without attribution to any one vendor.
So you mean a 3D printer? You're talking
3D
about.
printer. Yeah. You're not printing on a piece of paper and making a plane. So nothing would surprise me, Luke and Joe, if this attack in Venezuela involved drones doing some offensive security.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Doing some e-war stuff.
Yeah.
I think I saw.
They could acknowledge that kind of.
Yeah, they alluded to it. They didn't say what their means or methods were. But I do. Again, this could be completely made up. It might have came to me in a dream. But when I was reading about everything in Venezuela, like I thought that I read somewhere from like the ground report, like from the Venezuelans, there were a lot of drones in the air.
And that would not surprise me. And this is the funny part. It's like, Joe's probably sick at me, but like, as you probably know, I'm going for a doctorate, and my doctorate is in, cyber ethical warfare. And what I have found is that there's no delineation between a cyber attack and cyber warfare. And what we're doing these days, Venezuela was absolutely acknowledged as a hybrid attack. How they did the hybrid attack, I don't know whether it included drones or not. There's people alluding to it and not, but what we have not come to is like what constitutes cyber attacks versus cyber warfare. What constitutes kinetic and those thresholds. So now we're in a very muddy area. There's no real treaties based on cyber warfare, and that also brings in drones. Because all these things are in the mix together. They're all connected now.
Yeah, it's like one of the big things I was into because like I did a poli-sci degree, it's actually international studies with an emphasis on intelligence analysis and national security when I was at WVU because I wanted to go do intel for the government, and they weren't hiring for that at the time. They didn't want you unless you had a math degree or spoke Russian. And
Yanni Gavaru Perushki.
Pierogi, Niet, vodka.
Yeah, there you go, vodka.
Borscht.
That's what I know.
But one of the big things I was into, and I actually wrote about a lot of this stuff, and I wish I didn't have a corrupted computer because I wish I had all of my papers and not just a couple of them. But like, it's like getting into like gray zone warfare and like hybrid warfare, and like doing these attacks and doing things that skirt like legal treaties and like are so new that like we don't know how to classify it yet, and doing attacks that stay below the threshold of like kinetic retaliation, like which is a big thing the Iranians do, like through their proxies over in the Middle East, like the Houthis, and I think I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but there's an oil field attack in Saudi Arabia which the Iranians hit it with a cyber attack and then started hitting it with drones and missiles. And it's like, well, what was the leading element? Was it the cyber attack or was it the kinetic aspect of it?
It is beyond amazing what is happening in our world today. And speaking of thresholds, there's been, at least within NATO, in Article 5, if for those who don't know, it's attack on one, it's attack on all. And whenever NATO 5 is I guess, discussed or brought for discussion by NATO, what they talk about is whether or not, and I think it has something to do with NATO Article 4 about security threats, was
with all these delivery drones, what's to stop a bad guy from slapping an Amazon sticker down the side of like their malicious drone, and people are just it goes back to the cognitive bias thing. People are, oh, it's an Amazon delivery drone. Never mind that it's parked on the roof of a hospital or some piece of critical infrastructure or a VIP's residence. Because it also gets into executive protection also. Like, it's not just critical infrastructure and financial institutions. Like, you get into like targeting of like VIPs. And
yeah, now you got to protect your airspace. And if it's a VIP who has some money, it could be a very large airspace on an estate or something of that sort.
Yeah, it's like one of the things like they're trying to pass now with the laws. I think it's Senator Lee, Senator Cruz, and Senator Capito, who is my senator, is trying to give legal rights to people's airspace, which we don't have. And this bill I don't agree with because it basically makes flying drones legally impossible to do, as I interpret the bill, because right now you don't own your airspace. And that was DuPont versus the EPA that was determined back in the 80s, I think.
I could easily be wrong, but I actually thought that was a much older concept, going back to the earlier days of flight, to say, the government will control the airspace. It's like the airwaves. You don't own the airspace above you. Otherwise, aviation would be impossible.
Well, it gets a bit more complicated. In New York City, a lot of buildings communicate via FSO or free space optics, or they use cell towers. And what people do sometimes is there might be like two buildings communicating with FSO, free space optics, and they shoot the signal over somebody else's building. They do that now in New York City. The problem is if somebody builds up and breaks that connection, do they have a right to do it? And my understanding is yes.